All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION this hour. India and the European Union have now finally signed a historic and a sweeping trade agreement. The officials say that the deal will reshape trade ties between the two economies and also the broader global economy. The deal includes wide-ranging tariff cuts and expanded market access for both India and the 27-member EU bloc. Now, the Indian Prime Minister said that the people around the world are calling this the mother of all deals.
कल ही भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच एक बहुत बड़ा एग्रीमेंट हुआ है। दुनिया में लोग इसकी चर्चा मदर ऑफ ऑल डील्स के रूप में कर रहे हैं। ये समझौता भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों और यूरोपीय देशों के करोड़ों लोगों के लिए बहुत बड़े अवसर लेकर आया है। ये दुनिया की दो बड़ी इकोनॉमीज के बीच तालमेल का एक शानदार उदाहरण बना है। ये समझौता ग्लोबल जीडीपी के करीब 25% और ग्लोबल ट्रेड के करीब 1/3 हिस्से को रिप्रेजेंट करता है।
The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen highlighted that the synergy created by the partnership will lead to levels of growth that neither countries can achieve on their own.
With Europe's technology, capital and innovation, it will create levels of growth that neither side can achieve alone. And by combining these strengths, we reduce strategic dependencies at a time when trade is increasingly weaponized.
The European Council President Antonio Costa has also highlighted as to how the deal could reshape the future of both economies and the broader global economy.
Today, we have tangible progress and set an example of cooperative leadership on global issues. With our free trade agreement, our security and defense partnership, and our joint strategic agenda. These outcomes are crucial milestones on the longer path. We look forward to continuing the journey together, as always.
All right, let's also now bring up that graphic on what the terms of this mother of all deals actually are. A Reuters report has suggested that tariffs on EU spirits will now be cut to 40%. Wine tariffs will fall anywhere from 20 to 30%. Now, most tariffs on EU chemicals will be eliminated. 90% on EU medical equipment will now enter duty-free into India. The tariff on aircraft and spacecraft will also be largely removed. Car tariffs will be reduced gradually to 10%, but with a cap of about 250,000 vehicles per year. The EU service providers will get privileged access to India's market. More than 90% of the EU goods exports will see tariffs being either cut or scrapped. The tariffs on fruit juices and processed food will be eliminated, and duties on olive oil, margarine and vegetable oils will be removed. Beer tariffs will be slashed by 50%. Overall, the deal is expected to double EU exports to India by the year 2032. All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibbal, is joining us live. Siddhant, this is a big moment in terms of India's relationship with EU. Prime Minister Modi described it as the mother of all deals. That was echoed by Ursula von der Leyen as well. Tell us as to what this deal is about and how it will reshape the equation between India and the European Union.
Well, a significant development, one that sends a geopolitical message to the entire world. India and the EU, the two large markets coming together, creating one of the largest free trade areas. Now, Today, the foundation has been laid for it. It will go through legal scrubbing, then it goes through the EU Parliament, and then there will be signing between India and the EU. It will take approximately 6 to 8 months, but clearly the message is clear that India and EU are upping the relationship, and not just in the trade aspect, in terms of security, in terms of defense, that were the key other announcements, and also in terms of people-to-people exchanges. That basically means that more Indian talent going to European Union through legalized way, and for that both sides have laid the foundation for talks on mobility agreement. Now we know that both sides essentially pointed out, highlighted the necessity of this trade deal, but also pointing out as to how India and the EU are factor of stability in a geopolitically tensed world.
A factor of stability in a geopolitically tense and a world that is in a flux at the moment. Now, Siddhant, this is a deal that will be watched very closely by Washington as well. Howard Lutnick will, of course, be looking with a lens as to what has been signed between India and the European Union. How the Americans react to the fact that the European Union and India are now coming together in such a big manner when India and the United States are also trying to forge a deal together?
Well, we'll get to know perhaps in next few hours as the day breaks in United States. The first reaction is something that we are waiting already. We've already seen Trump officials pointing out that the EU and India are going to sign a trade deal, and that, of course, coming in the backdrop of the American tariffs on India. But coming to the moot point, it is going to only grow to the chorus of keenness to have India-US trade deal. In fact, a short while ago, WION spoke to Congressman Adam Smith, who is here in Delhi. He's a Democrat congressman, part of a US delegation of congressmen, and he clearly said that when it comes to India-EU trade deal, that is adding to the urgency of India-US trade deal, and that is something that both sides perhaps will be working on, a trade deal that is mutually beneficial to both sides.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Siddhant Zibil, for joining us with those updates then. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.